What if the person you think you are is just a mask? I know that sounds dramatic, maybe even unsettling. But stay with me, because today we're diving into one of Carl Jung's most powerful ideas, one that could completely change how you see yourself. Think about it. Every day we play roles. At work, maybe you're the dependable one. At home, you're the funny one. With friends, you're the peacekeeper. It's like we wear different masks depending on who's watching. Jung called this our persona, the version of ourselves we show the world. And while there's nothing wrong with playing a role, the problem begins when we forget we're acting. You see, the mask was never meant to become your identity. But for many of us, it has. We've become so used to pretending, pleasing, performing, that we've lost touch with who we really are underneath. Have you ever had a moment where you asked yourself, is this really me? Or felt exhausted trying to keep up an image that doesn't fully reflect how you feel inside? You're not alone. Carl Jung believed that true transformation begins when we confront this mask, when we ask not just, who am I to others, but who am I to myself? And in this video, we're going to explore exactly how that one idea, the idea of the persona, can shift your entire perspective on your self-image, your relationships, and even your life's direction. So if you're ready to see yourself with fresh eyes, maybe even for the first time, stick around. What we're about to uncover could be the beginning of something real. Let's start with the simple truth that most of us rarely question every single day we wear a mask. Now, I'm not talking about pretending to be someone you're not. I'm talking about the version of yourself you show the world, what Carl Jung called the persona. It's the social face we put on to fit in, to belong, to be accepted. Maybe at work, you're the one who's always reliable. You stay late, you never complain, you keep things moving. In your friend group, maybe you're the funny one, the one who cracks a joke to lighten the mood. At home, you might be the caregiver, always putting others first. And in public, you smile even when your heart feels heavy. None of these things are necessarily bad. In fact, they help us navigate life. They keep us employed, connected, and sometimes even safe. But here's where things get tricky. Over time, that mask we wear becomes so familiar, we start to believe that's all we are. Jung believed that the persona isn't your true self. It's a role you play. And like any role, it can start to confine you. Because the more you lean into what others expect, the further you drift from your inner truth. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where someone praised you for being strong, but deep down you were barely holding it together? Or maybe they said you were so positive, but you were hiding real pain. That's the persona in action. It shows only what's acceptable, not what's authentic. Here's an example from my own life. For years, I was known as the productive one, the guy who always had it together, who never missed a deadline. And I wore that badge with pride. But what no one saw were the panic attacks, the sleepless nights, the fear that if I ever slowed down, I'd disappoint everyone, including myself. I wasn't lying. I was surviving. But I was also hiding. And the more I lived in that mask, the more disconnected I felt from others, from my emotions, from who I really was beneath it all. Jung warned us that when we over-identify with our persona, we risk losing touch with the deeper parts of ourselves, the messy, imperfect, vulnerable parts. But ironically, those are the parts that make us real and fully human. So let me ask you this. Who are you without the mask? If you weren't trying to meet expectations, if you weren't being the funny one or the strong one or the responsible one, who would you be? That question can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But it's also the beginning of real self-discovery. Because the truth is, we're not meant to live as caricatures of ourselves. We're not meant to be trapped in roles. The persona might be useful. It helps us function in society, but it's not the full story. Beneath the mask, there's someone more honest, more complex, someone who laughs but also cries, someone who achieves but also struggles, someone who belongs not because they perform, but because they're human. And the journey we're on, the one Jung invites us into, is about peeling back that mask. Not to throw it away, but to remember that it's just one layer of who we are, not the whole picture. So if this resonates with you, don't worry, you're not broken. You're waking up, you're beginning to see the mask for what it is and what it's not. And in the next part of this video, we'll talk about what lies behind that mask, something Jung called the shadow. And trust me, that's where things get really interesting. There's a quote by Carl Jung that always gives me chills. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Let that sink in for a second. Most of us like to believe that we're in control, that our choices are conscious, our reactions logical, our path clear. But Jung suggests otherwise. He believed there's a hidden part of us, one we rarely acknowledge, that quietly shapes our behavior, our emotions, and even the outcomes we think are just the way life is. He called it the shadow. Now, what exactly is the shadow? It's not evil. It's not something to be feared. It's simply the part of you that you've pushed into the dark. The thoughts, desires, traits, and memories that didn't feel safe to express, so you buried them. It might be anger you weren't allowed to show as a child, or a longing you were told was too much. It might be jealousy, fear, shame, or even strength that made others uncomfortable. Over time, these rejected parts didn't disappear. They just slipped into your unconscious. And from there, they began to act out not directly, but indirectly, in subtle, often sabotaging ways. Let me give you an example. Have you ever met someone who constantly criticizes others, always pointing out flaws, always finding something wrong? On the surface, it looks like they're just judgmental. But often, what's really happening is this. They're projecting their own hidden insecurities. They can't accept their own imperfections, so they attack others instead. That's the shadow in action. Or maybe you've had a strong reaction to someone disliking them instantly, even though they haven't done anything wrong. That reaction might not be about them at all, but about something they reflect back to you, a trait you've denied in yourself. The shadow doesn't just show up in how we treat others. It appears in self-sabotage too, like when you procrastinate on something deeply important or lash out at someone you love and later regret it, or stay in a situation that's toxic but strangely familiar. These aren't random mistakes, they're patterns. And until we shine a light on them, they'll keep running the show from the shadows. But here's the good news. Facing your shadow isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding yourself deeply, honestly, courageously. And the moment you become aware of your shadow is the moment you start taking your power back. Jung believed that true personal growth doesn't come from chasing perfection. It comes from integration, from owning all of who you are, not just the parts you're proud of. So let me ask you, what parts of yourself have you hidden because they felt wrong? What emotions do you label as bad and push aside? And what if those parts are actually the keys to your healing? It's not easy work. Looking into the mirror and seeing both your light and your darkness takes humility and courage, but it's also the beginning of wholeness, the beginning of freedom. And here's the thing, you don't have to do it all at once. Even small acts of awareness, like noticing a trigger, sitting with a difficult emotion, or asking yourself, why did I react that way, are powerful steps toward integration. Because the more you know your shadow, the less it controls you. And the more you accept yourself fully, the more you can live authentically. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt like parts of you are at war with each other? Like one version of you wants to succeed and be seen, while another part quietly sabotages things from behind the scenes. One voice says, be confident, and another whispers, you're not good enough. Or maybe you feel like you're always switching between roles, and deep down, you wonder if you've ever truly been yourself. Carl Jung had a word for the process of resolving that inner conflict. He called it individuation. Now, don't let the word scare you off. It's not academic or abstract. It's actually one of the most powerful ideas Jung ever introduced, and it just might change how you live your life. Individuation is the journey of becoming whole, of integrating all the different parts of yourself, even the ones you've hidden or rejected. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. You see, we all start out building a persona, a version of ourselves that helps us survive in society. It's the polite face we show at work, the confident face we wear in a meeting, the agreeable one in social situations. That persona helps us belong. But if we live only through the mask, we become disconnected from our inner world. Then there's the shadow, the part of us we bury, our fears, insecurities, forbidden desires. We push them away hoping they'll disappear. But they never really do. They wait in the background acting out when we least expect it. Here's the breakthrough Jung gave us. He didn't say, get rid of your shadow or destroy your mask. He said, integrate them. Bring them into awareness. Learn from them. Balance them. That's individuation. It's like finally sitting at the same table with all the different parts of you, the loud ones, the quiet ones, the ones that feel ashamed, the ones that feel proud, and saying, okay, I see you. Let's figure this out together. When you do that, something amazing starts to happen. You stop overreacting to small things. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You stop carrying this constant low-level anxiety about being enough. Instead, you begin to feel something rare, something real, wholeness. You trust yourself more. You understand your emotions instead of fearing them. You feel more present in your relationships because you're not wearing a mask all the time. And here's the beautiful irony: when you stop trying so hard to be who the world wants you to be, you finally become someone the world needs because you're authentic, grounded, and real. I experienced this myself during a time in my life when I hit a wall. From the outside, I looked like I had it all together, but inside, I felt like a stranger to myself. That's when I started exploring Jung's work. Slowly, I started journaling, meditating, having hard conversations. I didn't try to fix anything. I just listened. And in doing that, I found pieces of myself I didn't know I had lost. Now, I'm not saying the journey is quick or easy. It's not a 10-step checklist. It's a lifelong unfolding. But even the first step, even the decision to turn inward and look at your own patterns, is incredibly powerful. So let me ask you, what parts of yourself have you tried to silence in order to fit in? What would happen if you welcome them back into the conversation? Not to control you, but to complete you. Because here's the truth: you don't need to become someone else. You just need to become fully you. And that's what individuation is all about. In the final part of this video, we'll look at how you can tell if you're already on this path and the signs that you're becoming more integrated, more conscious, and more whole. So, how do you know if you're truly on the path Carl Jung spoke about? How do you know if you've taken that first step toward discovering your real self? The self beneath the mask, beyond the roles, behind the shadow. The answer might surprise you. It doesn't always begin with clarity. In fact, it often begins with confusion. You might start to feel a deep inner conflict, like you're being pulled in different directions. What used to feel normal now feels forced. Maybe you used to chase achievement recognition or approval, and suddenly those things just don't satisfy you the way they used to. That's the first sign: inner tension. And while it's uncomfortable, it's actually powerful, because it means something inside you is waking up. A part of you is starting to say, this isn't quite me anymore. Another sign: you start asking deeper questions, not just what should I do with my life, but who am I really? That kind of question doesn't come from a place of ambition. It comes from a place of honest reflection, a desire to know yourself, not through your achievements, not through others' opinions, but from within. You might also notice a subtle shift in how you respond to the world. You begin craving stillness. The noise of comparison, the constant judgment of others, it just doesn't hold the same power anymore. You stop needing to prove yourself. You start listening more. You feel more drawn to solitude, to nature, to anything that feels real. And then there are the dreams. Yes, dreams. Jung believed that our dreams are the unconscious trying to communicate with us. So if you've been having strange, symbolic, vivid dreams lately, don't brush them off. Pay attention. They often contain clues, images, themes, even feelings that your conscious mind hasn't yet processed. I'll never forget one of mine. I was walking through a house I didn't recognize, opening doors to rooms I had never seen. Some were beautiful, full of light. Others were dark, even a little frightening. Later, I realized it was a metaphor for my inner world. Parts of me I had explored, and parts I hadn't dared to face yet. That's the Jungian path in action. And if any of this sounds familiar to you, if you've been feeling more introspective, more curious about your patterns, more aware of your emotional reactions, you're probably already on this path. But here's the thing, there's no map, no deadline, no right way to do it. This isn't a self-help checklist. It's a journey that unfolds in layers through conversations, breakdowns, breakthroughs, quiet mornings, painful goodbyes, and moments of sudden clarity. It's not always comfortable, but it is real. And once you begin, you can't go back to sleep, not fully, because now you've seen glimpses of who you really are. And even if that version of you isn't fully formed yet, even if you're still unraveling the mask and the shadow, you're further along than you think. So if you're feeling uncertain, lost, or emotionally raw, don't panic. You might just be waking up to your deeper self. And that's not a crisis. That's an awakening. So, after everything we've explored together, Carl Jung's ideas about the persona, the shadow, and the journey of individuation. There's one powerful truth that I hope you carry with you. Jung never asked you to become someone else. He asked you to become yourself. Not the version of you that pleases everyone, not the one that hides behind a polished image, but the one who exists when no one's watching, the version of you that's messy, brilliant, raw, real. You see, we live in a world obsessed with becoming. Become more productive, become more successful, become more confident, but Jung turned that around. He said, wait, what if you stopped becoming and started returning to who you were before the world told you who to be? That's the invitation. That's the path. And it starts not with self-improvement, but with self-inquiry. So if something in this video stirred something in you, if you felt a quiet recognition, a moment of discomfort, or even a sense of relief, don't ignore it. That's your soul knocking. That's your unconscious rising to the surface, asking you to listen. Maybe it's time to ask yourself, what mask am I still wearing? What part of me have I pushed into the shadows? And who might I become if I welcomed all of me into the light? Because real healing doesn't come from denying our pain. It comes from embracing our wholeness. It comes from saying, I am both light and dark, and I am still worthy. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So maybe today is the day you begin that journey. Not in some grand, dramatic way, but quietly, courageously, from within. And if you're ready to keep exploring these ideas, if you're curious about what lies beneath the surface and want to keep going deeper into your own story, then you're exactly where you need to be. If this video sparked something in you, consider exploring your own shadow. Your healing might begin right there. And if you haven't already subscribed for more deep dives into Jungian wisdom, the unconscious mind, and the path to authentic self-understanding, you are not here to perform, you are here to become. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious, stay honest, and stay true to yourself.